Crix adjusted his breathing mask as he walked through the pristine halls of the Galactic Military Academy. The young Zephyrian's scaled skin shimmered under the artificial lights, betraying his nervousness. Today marked his first day in Advanced Tactical Studies, the most exclusive course in the academy. The classroom buzzed with quiet conversations between cadets from dozens of species. Crix recognized most of them: the crystalline Vorthak with their translucent bodies, the towering Meridians whose forearms moved in perfect coordination, and the amphibious Quellans who needed special water suits to survive in the dry environment. Commander Thales entered the room with measured steps. The elderly Centaurian's reputation preceded him. A veteran of 17 major conflicts, and holder of the Golden Star of Valor, his 6 eyes scanned the assembled cadets before settling on his datapad. "Welcome to Advanced Tactical Studies," Commander Thales began, his voice carrying across the silent room. "You represent the finest military minds your species have to offer. Over the next rotation, you will learn the complexities of modern galactic warfare." Crix leaned forward, eager to absorb every word. He had dreamed of this moment since childhood, when his father told him stories of the great space battles that shaped their galaxy. However, the commander continued, "Before we discuss current military doctrine, we must address a fundamental rule that governs all galactic conflicts." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans are strictly forbidden from participating in any military action beyond their home system." A Vorthak cadet named Zara raised one of her crystalline appendages. "Commander, we learned in basic history that humans were classified as a non-military species due to their primitive technology. Is this still accurate?" Commander Thales's expression grew serious. "The official records state that humans lack the technological advancement necessary for modern warfare. Their ships are slow, their weapons are crude, and their tactical understanding is limited." Crix exchanged glances with his roommate, a Quellan named Blub whose water suit gurgled softly. Something in the commander's tone suggested there was more to the story than the official records indicated. "But Commander," interjected Vex, a Meridian cadet, whose forearms gestured expressively, "if humans are so primitive, why maintain such strict regulations? Surely a species with outdated technology poses no threat to galactic security." The question hung in the air like a charged particle waiting to discharge. Commander Thales walked to the large viewing screen that dominated one wall of the classroom. With a gesture, he activated a star map showing the current political boundaries of the galaxy. "That, Cadet Vex, is precisely what you will investigate during this course." The map zoomed in on a small section near the galaxy's outer rim, highlighting a yellow star system. "Your assignment is to research human military capabilities and determine whether current restrictions are justified." Crix felt his heart racing with excitement. An actual research assignment involving a restricted species was unprecedented for cadets at their level. "You will work in teams of 4. The commander continued. "Each team will have access to classified databases, combat simulations, and historical archives. Your findings will be presented to the Academy Board at the end of the rotation." As teams formed around him, Crix found himself grouped with Zara the Vorthak, Blub the Quellan, and Vex the Meridian. Despite their different biologies, they had bonded over their shared love of military strategy during their first year at the Academy. "This is incredible," Zara whispered, her crystalline body pulsing with excitement. "We're being given access to classified information as second-year cadets." Blub's suit bubbled as he spoke. "My uncle works in galactic intelligence. He once mentioned that human files are kept in the highest security vaults. Even senior analysts need special clearance to review them." Vex's forearms moved in a pattern that indicated deep thought among his species. "If humans are truly primitive, why such extreme security measures? It doesn't add up logically." Crix nodded in agreement. His analytical mind, a trait highly valued among Zephyrians, was already identifying inconsistencies in the official narrative. Commander Thales distributed data tablets to each team. "Your research begins now. You have access to the Academy's military archives. But remember, everything you learn in this course is classified at the highest levels. Violation of security protocols will result in immediate expulsion and potential criminal charges. The weight of responsibility settled on Crix's shoulders like a heavy cloak. This wasn't just an academic exercise. They were being trusted with information that could reshape their understanding of galactic politics. As the class dismissed, the 4 teammates gathered in the Academy's central library. The massive structure housed the collected military knowledge of hundreds of civilizations, spanning thousands of years. "Let's start with the basics," suggested Zara, her logical Vorthak nature taking charge. "We need to understand what humans actually are before we can evaluate their military potential." Crix activated his data tablet and began searching the archives. The first entries he found were standard diplomatic files. Species classification, basic biology, technological assessments. Everything seemed to confirm the official story of human primitiveness. "According to this," Vex said, reading from his own tablet, "humans have only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last 50 of their years. Most species master this technology within a decade of developing spaceflight." Blub's suit made questioning sounds as he processed information. "But look at this entry about their planet. Earth has survived multiple extinction-level events. Yet humans not only survived but thrived. That suggests remarkable adaptability." Crix felt something nagging at the edge of his consciousness. His father had always taught him that the most important information was often hidden in the details others overlooked. "There's something strange here," he announced, causing his teammates to look up from their tablets. "The human files are organized differently from every other species in the database. Most species have their military capabilities listed in the primary index, but human military information is filed under historical curiosities." Zara's crystalline form shifted color to deep blue, indicating intense concentration. "That's highly irregular. Even the most primitive species have their combat capabilities documented in military databases." As they delved deeper into the archives, more inconsistencies emerged. Human population centers were described in unusual detail for a supposedly irrelevant species. Their industrial capabilities were meticulously catalogued, despite their alleged technological inferiority. Most puzzling of all, there were references to incident reports that required higher security clearance than the cadets possessed. The first day of research ended with more questions than answers, but Crix felt certain they were on the verge of discovering something significant. As he returned to his dormitory that evening, one thought dominated his mind. If humans were truly as primitive as the official records claimed, why did the Galactic Council seem so afraid of them? 3 weeks into their research, Crix and his team had developed a routine. They spent their mornings attending regular classes, but their afternoons belonged entirely to the human investigation. The Academy's archives had become their second home, and each day brought new discoveries that challenged everything they thought they knew. Zara had proven especially skilled at navigating the complex database structures. Her Vorthak ability to process multiple data streams simultaneously allowed her to cross-reference information at incredible speeds. On this particular afternoon, she had discovered something that made her crystalline body pulse with excitement. "I found them," she announced as the others gathered around her workstation. "The incident reports we kept seeing referenced. They're buried in the military tribunal archives." Blub's water suit bubbled with anticipation. "How did you get access?" "Those files require security clearance levels we don't have." Zara's form shifted to a proud amber color. "I didn't hack anything, if that's what you're worried about. I discovered that tribunal records automatically become accessible to military academy students after 50 standard years. These files just hit that threshold last month." Vex leaned forward, his forearms moving in the rapid pattern that indicated extreme interest among Meridians. "What do they say?" "That's the interesting part," Zara replied, opening the first file. "These aren't just incident reports. They're court-martial proceedings for Galactic Council military officers who had unauthorized contact with humans." Crix felt his breathing quicken. Court-martial proceedings meant serious crimes, treason, insubordination, or violations of the highest military laws. What kind of contact? The first file that opened told a story that none of them were prepared for. Admiral Corvith of the Draconian Fleet had been stripped of rank and imprisoned for unlawful engagement with restricted human vessels. The date was only 15 standard years ago. "This doesn't make sense," Blub said, his translator converting his aquatic speech patterns into standard galactic. "If human ships are primitive, how could engagement with them result in a court-martial? Wouldn't it be like disciplining an officer for fighting children?" Vex was already pulling up related files. "Look at this one. Captain Zeltar of the Nebula Corps, court-martialed for failure to maintain tactical superiority during human encounter. The charges specifically mention unprecedented human battle tactics, resulting in frigate-class vessel destruction." Crix's analytical mind raced through the implications. A frigate-class vessel represents cutting-edge military technology. The official reports claim human ships are barely capable of interstellar travel. How could they destroy advanced Galactic Council ships? As they read further, a pattern emerged that shook their fundamental understanding of galactic politics. Over the past 50 years, 17 high-ranking military officers had been court-martialed for various forms of human-related incidents. These weren't accidents or misunderstandings. They were military engagements that the Art of Sensid Council desperately wanted to keep secret. "Here's the most recent one," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Admiral Teska of the Enforcement Division. She was court-martialed just 3 years ago for catastrophic failure to contain human expansion activities." The file contained tactical reports that made no logical sense given everything they had been taught. Human vessels, described as impossibly maneuverable, despite using primitive propulsion systems. Human weapons that exceeded theoretical damage parameters while being technologically inferior to Galactic Council standards. Blub's suit made confused gurgling sounds as he processed the information. "This is impossible. How can something be both primitive and superior at the same time?" Crix was beginning to understand, and the realization filled him with both excitement and fear. What if the official classification is wrong? What if humans aren't primitive at all? Or worse, Vex added grimly, what if the classification is deliberately false? The thought hung between them like a dangerous secret. Falsifying species classifications was one of the highest crimes in galactic law, punishable by dissolution of planetary governments and exile to the Outer Rim. Zara's form had shifted to deep purple, indicating serious concern among her people. "We need to understand what actually happened in these incidents. The tribunal records only show the outcomes, not the details of the engagements." Crix knew where to find more information, but accessing it would require taking risks that could end their careers before they truly began. The Tactical Simulation Archives. Every major military engagement gets reconstructed for training purposes. Those simulations require instructor-level access. Blub protested. "We could be expelled just for attempting to view them. Not if we request them through official channels," Vex suggested. "We're conducting legitimate research under Commander Thales' direct orders. He gave us access to classified databases. Surely that includes tactical simulations." The decision required careful consideration. They were cadets, still learning the basic principles of galactic warfare, about to request access to some of the most sensitive military data in the galaxy. But the inconsistencies they had discovered demanded investigation. Commander Thales reviewed their request the following morning. His 6 eyes moved independently as he scanned their research summary, occasionally pausing at particularly significant discoveries. When he finished reading, he was quiet for several minutes. "You've been thorough," he finally said. "More thorough than I expected from second-year cadets." Crix struggled to read the commander's expression. Centaurians were notoriously difficult to interpret, even for experienced diplomats. "The simulations you're requesting are classified at levels that require special justification," Commander Thales continued. "However, your research has uncovered genuine inconsistencies that warrant further investigation." He activated his command terminal and began inputting authorization codes. "I'm granting you temporary access to the Tactical Simulation Archives. But understand this. What you learn may fundamentally change your perception of galactic politics and military doctrine." The weight of his words settled over the 4 cadets like a heavy blanket. They were about to cross a threshold that would transform them from students into participants in one of the galaxy's greatest secrets. "There's something else you should know," the commander added, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Your research hasn't gone unnoticed. Galactic Intelligence has been monitoring Academy database access, and your investigation has triggered security protocols." Zara's crystalline form flickered between colors as panic set in. "Are we in trouble, sir?" "Not yet," Commander Thales replied. "But you're walking a dangerous path. The information you're uncovering is protected by forces more powerful than you can imagine. Be careful who you trust, and document everything you discover." That afternoon, they entered the tactical simulation chamber with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The advanced holographic systems could recreate military engagements with perfect accuracy, allowing them to witness historical battles as if they were actually present. Crick selected the first simulation, Admiral Corveth's encounter with human vessels 15 years ago. As the hologram activated, they found themselves standing on the bridge of a draconian dreadnought, the most advanced ship class in the galactic fleet. What they witnessed over the next hour would haunt their dreams and reshape their understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The humans didn't fight like any species they had studied. They fought like predators who had evolved in a universe far more dangerous than anything the Galactic Council had ever imagined. The simulation began with Admiral Corveth's fleet approaching what appeared to be a small human cargo convoy near the edge of human space. 3 primitive-looking vessels, barely larger than fighters, drifted along a standard shipping route. According to official reports, this should have been a routine inspection that would demonstrate human technological inferiority. Crix watched in fascination as the draconian dreadnought, bristling with advanced weaponry and protected by energy shields that could deflect planet-killing asteroids, moved to intercept the human ships. The Admiral's confidence was evident in his relaxed posture and casual orders to his crew. "Human vessels. This is Admiral Corveth of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. Prepare to be boarded for routine inspection." "Ah." The response from the human ships changed everything the cadets thought they understood about galactic warfare. "Negative, Admiral. We're in human space conducting lawful business. You have no jurisdiction here." The voice was calm, professional, and completely unintimidated by facing a ship that outmassed the entire human convoy by a factor of 10,000. Admiral Corveth's attitude shifted to annoyance. "Human vessels. Your primitive technology poses a navigation hazard to legitimate traffic. Stand down immediately, or face military consequences." What happened next defied every principle of space combat the cadets had been taught. The 3 human ships didn't flee, surrender, or attempt to negotiate. Instead, they attacked. Blub's water suit made shocked gurgling sounds as the first human vessel disappeared from sensors, only to reappear directly behind the dreadnought's primary weapon array. The attack that followed was surgical in its precision. A series of concentrated energy bursts that disabled the massive ship's main guns without damaging critical life support systems. "Impossible," Vex breathed, his forearms trembling. "Those ships are too small to carry weapons capable of penetrating dreadnought armor." But the evidence was undeniable. While the draconian crew scrambled to respond to the impossible attack, the second human vessel materialized inside the dreadnought's shield perimeter. The energy shields that were supposed to make the ship invulnerable had been bypassed as if they didn't exist. Zara's crystalline form had turned completely transparent, a Vorthak stress response that occurred only during extreme shock. "They're not using conventional propulsion. Look at the movement patterns. They're violating the fundamental laws of physics." The third human ship appeared to phase through the dreadnought's hull, emerging inside the hangar bay, where it began systematically disabling fighter craft. The draconian crew, trained to face the most advanced military forces in the galaxy, found themselves completely helpless against technology they couldn't comprehend. Admiral Corveth's final transmission was barely coherent. "Command. Requesting immediate assistance. Human vessels are using unknown technology. Repeat. Unknown technology. They're not primitive. They're not primitive." The simulation ended with the dreadnought drifting powerless in space while the human ships simply vanished, leaving no trace of their presence except for the disabled Galactic Council vessel. Crick stared at the empty hologram chamber, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. That wasn't a battle. That was a demonstration. A demonstration of what? Blub asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Restraint, Zara replied, her form slowly returning to its normal crystalline transparency. They could have destroyed that dreadnought completely. Instead, they disabled it and left the crew alive. Vex was already calling up the next simulation, Captain Zeltar's encounter. We need to see more. This could be an anomaly. Some kind of recording error. But as they watched simulation after simulation, the pattern became undeniable. Every engagement followed the same basic structure. Galactic Council forces encountering humans in what should have been routine operations, only to discover that human technology was far beyond anything in their databases. The most disturbing simulation was Admiral Tessiska's final engagement. Her task force of 12 heavy cruisers had been dispatched to investigate reports of human expansion beyond their designated territory. What they found was a human colony ship, massive beyond imagination, accompanied by an escort that made the previous encounters look like training exercises. The human commander's transmission was brief and to the point. Admiral Teska, you are trespassing in human space. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. The Admiral, having read the classified reports of previous encounters, tried diplomacy. Human Commander, we're here to discuss territorial boundaries. There seems to be a misunderstanding about the limits of human space. There's no misunderstanding, Admiral. This sector was claimed by humanity 50 years ago. Your government was notified through proper channels. The fact that you choose to ignore our territorial rights doesn't make them invalid. Crix felt his heart stop as he realized the implications. 50 years ago, that's when the first incidents began appearing in the tribunal records. The simulation continued with Admiral Tessiska's task force taking aggressive positions around the human colony ship. What followed was a demonstration of military capability that rendered every Galactic Council tactical manual obsolete. The human escort vessels, only 6 ships compared to 12 Council cruisers, didn't just defeat the task force. They systematically dismantled it, using technology that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. Energy weapons that fired around corners, ships that existed in multiple locations simultaneously, and defensive systems that converted incoming attacks into additional power for their own weapons. When the battle ended, Admiral Tessiska's flagship was the only vessel left functional, and that only because the humans had deliberately spared it. Admiral, the human commander's voice was patient, almost kind. Return to your government and tell them this. Humanity has been patient with your expansion into our territory because we understand the challenges of governing a large galactic community. But our patience has limits. The next time Council forces enter human space without permission, we won't be so restrained. The simulation ended with Admiral Teska's traumatized transmission to Council headquarters. They're not just advanced. They're beyond us. Light years beyond us. The classification system is wrong. Everything is wrong. As the 4 cadets stood in the silent simulation chamber, the magnitude of their discovery began to sink in. The Galactic Council, the most powerful political entity in known space, had been systematically lying about humanity's capabilities for over 50 years. We have to tell someone, Blub said, his voice muffled by his water suit's emotional dampeners. Tell them what? Vex replied. That the Council has been covering up the existence of a species that could destroy their entire military force without breaking stride? Zara had been unusually quiet during the final simulation. I've been analyzing the tactical data from all the encounters. The humans aren't just technologically superior. They're using completely different scientific principles. Their ships don't just violate our understanding of physics. They operate according to physical laws we haven't discovered yet. Crix understood the truth that none of them wanted to speak aloud. They're not banned from galactic warfare because they're primitive. They're banned because they're so advanced that their participation would end the war before it began. The realization brought with it a cascade of questions that threatened to undermine everything they believed about galactic civilization. If humans were this advanced, Why did they limit themselves to such a small territory? Why did they allow the Council to maintain the fiction of their primitiveness? And most frightening of all, what were they waiting for? Commander Thales was waiting for them when they emerged from the simulation chamber. His expression was grim, and he was accompanied by two figures the cadets didn't recognize, beings in the black uniforms of Galactic Intelligence. Cadets, the commander said formally, you've completed your research ahead of schedule. Your findings will be presented to a special review board tomorrow morning. One of the intelligence officers stepped forward. Everything you've learned is now classified at the highest levels of galactic security. You will discuss your discoveries with no one outside this group. Violation of this directive will be considered an act of treason against the Galactic Council. As they were escorted to secure quarters for the night, Crix realized that they had stumbled upon more than just a military secret. They had discovered the truth that held the entire galactic political structure together, the carefully maintained lie that kept humanity isolated not for the Council's protection, but for humanity's. The next morning, as they prepared to present their findings to officials who already knew the truth they had uncovered, Crix wondered what role they would play in maintaining the greatest secret in galactic history. They had sought to understand why humans were banned from galactic warfare, and they had found their answer. Humans weren't banned from participating in galactic conflicts because they were too primitive to contribute. They were banned because they were too advanced to allow anyone else to survive.